So guess what the lesson in this article, should you pray, is?
What?
Yes.
Oh. Where did you get this again?
You're not familiar with the Watchtower?
I am. I just have never read it, so I didn't know what the main articles would be. I didn't make that connection.
Well, we in this particular, I have two. I have two publications that my wonderful partner provided me: the Watchtower and one called Awake. The articles in this episode of the Watchtower, which is the April edition, 2014, is Should You Pray, which is subdivided into Why Do People Pray and Should You Pray. Also in this issue, The Bible Changes Lives, which is an article about the Bible changing lives. You Can Resist Temptation, which I think is best described by the salacious splash quote they put at the beginning of the article, which says that a young man identified as Dylan is quoted as saying, "An attractive girl at work started flirting with me. One day she suggested that we go to a hotel to play around. I knew exactly what she wanted."
To what? Do what? Play Left 4 Dead 4?
I don't know, but apparently step 1 is to guard your eyes.
Oh.
Step 2 is guard your thoughts.
Wow.
And step 3 is guard your steps, which apparently a really good method of guarding your steps is only going online when other people are around.
Okay.
We've got some sub-articles in here, such as What Was Life Like for Slaves in the Roman World?
Oh, gosh.
And Why Was Ancient Phoenicia Famous for Its Purple Dye? Sorry?
The Watchtower, that's from the Jehovah's Witnesses, right?
Yes.
I always answer the door to the Jehovah's Witnesses because I feel like one day it'll be Prince. Hello everyone, welcome to Word Funk. I am Leon Thomas. With me is Johnny Maloney and Austin Yorsky. Guys, I don't want to get political on the show because I basically have to conserve my making people upset with me energy for Renegade cut. But I just had a thought today, reading my Twitter feed full of everyone basically complaining about people who have a social conscience. If you want to mock someone for being more or less well-intentioned, don't use the words justice or warrior as a pejorative, because that sounds awesome.
Sounds like it's like they're really, really sweet-ass wrestlers in the WWE is what it sounds like.
It's not an insult. Yeah, it could be. Justice Warriors to me sounds like the Justice League had an offshoot superhero team, but like full of like anti-hero badasses. Like Batman was like, fuck this shit. We're not hardcore enough here. I'm making the Justice Warriors. Sharpen your battle axes. And then they just ride off on motorcycles that are also on fire. It's like if I see Austin walking down the sidewalk and I want to insult him because I'm just randomly feeling like a dick that day. And I say, hey, Austin, how's your fantastic sexual prowess? Everyone is talking about both the length and girth of your organ. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter how you say it or with what inflection or what your intention is. It still sounds pretty good. So, like, if I were a superhero, like, joining the Justice Warriors would be top priority. It's literally all I would want to do. It was like, step 1, buy ultra skin tight spandex outfit. Step 2, join the Justice Warriors. Like, bam, best superhero. So, I don't know, not that I'm saying people should think of more inventive ways to, like, yell at each other, but this will not stand at all. I mean,
Step your game up.
Yeah, I mean,
at this point, what the issue is it's not really a challenge to dismiss you if you're that bad at insults.
Yeah, like, someone called me a social justice warrior not long ago, and because I tried to say something nice and well-meaning, as people sometimes do, and that apparently made me a justice warrior. And I was like, oh, that is so cool. I can't wait to get my power ring. So,
it's like some kind of prestige class for paladins. Like,
oh, yeah.
You reach level 10, you become a justice warrior.
It's fantastic. Guys, there's news. It's sort of news that's been percolating for a while, but now it's it's more officially official. The next 3 to 5 years are looking like really I want to say exciting, but also frightening.
How about cautiously grim
for Ridley Scott and his upcoming movies? Ridley Scott has announced that he's making Blade Runner 2. I should say Ridley Scott has threatened that he will make. I'm gonna say something right now. Someone recently asked me what are my top 20 favorite movies of all time, and I had to really think about it. And I'm still compiling a list, but if Blade Runner is not number 1, it's only as low as 2. So the idea that there's going to be a Blade Runner 2 is a little frightening because, I mean, sequels rarely are as good as the original. There are exceptions, of course, but this movie is so many years and so far removed from the original. And Ridley Scott, although, people kind of crap on him a little because of some recent films, but his record is like sort of spotty. Like,
because we all remember the cinematic juggernaut that was Robin Hood.
Well, I actually never even bothered to see that one, if I'm being honest. But I'm actually talking about
I can break it down for you like real fast.
Go ahead.
Robin Hood is about how in like 13th century England, Robin Hood writes the American Constitution.
Awesome. Thank you, Robin Hood. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I love all our freedoms. But no, Ridley Scott, see, when it comes to entertainers and creative minds, I always consider myself kind of a cheap date. Like, if you can, like, make 2 awesome things, then I don't care about anything else that you made that is bad. It's like, people say, do you like M. Night Shyamalan? And I say, I like The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. I don't care about anything else. I mean, he can make shit for, like, the next 30 to 40 years. And he might.
He also made that really amusing Visa commercial.
Okay. Alright. But no, it's like if I ever see M. Night Shyamalan, I'd say, can I high five you for those 2 movies I really love that you made? And he'd be like, yeah, man, because I imagine M. Night Shyamalan, of all people, is completely down to earth. But no, Ridley Scott made Alien and he made Blade Runner. He made Gladiator, which I like. I know a lot of people crap on it because it shouldn't have won Best Picture that year, and it shouldn't have, maybe, but it was still good.
And, I love Gladiator.
Yeah,
Gladiator's boss.
It's a cool movie. And there's actually a couple I've been meaning to see. Apparently, American Gangster and Black Hawk Down are like very named films, but I just haven't seen them yet. But anyway,
those are both great.
Yeah,
Leon, you're forgetting Ridley Scott's most important achievement.
What?
He got a video game character named after him. Ridley from Metroid.
Oh, okay.
Is named after Ridley Scott because Metroid is largely based on Alien.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, well, that's cool.
He still can't get into Smash Brothers, though, motherfucker. Sorry.
Oh. But yeah, apparently the next few years are gonna be, him making, first Exodus is coming out soon. Apparently it's already done. It'll be out in November or December for award seasons. There's, controversy because apparently all the white characters are like all the white actors are playing these prominent roles and all the black actors are playing their subjects. And people are upset because of the optics of this.
Well, if they address it in the movie,
yeah,
it's pretty suitable. Like if it becomes an issue in the movie, then that's fine. But if it just kind of like accidentally wound up that way, you might have to explain yourself.
Yeah, I know very little about it except for this mild controversy. I'll probably end up seeing it because I like big epic films and I like Ridley Scott. He is actually making something before Blade Runner 2, and that is The Martian, which is about Matt Damon starring it. He's going to be a man who is stranded on Mars, and that's really all I know about it because it's still in development phase and all that. So, but it sounds, interesting. I like, Ridley Scott. He likes making science fiction films and big epic films, and maybe that'll be good. But then it's Blade Runner 2, and then it's Prometheus 2.
Now, he's confirmed it, the reason why we're talking about this is because he confirmed this week that the scripts are written for both of these movies. Am I right?
Yeah, it's basically done at this point. I mean, both movies are years away from being made, but yeah, the scripts are done. I imagine they'll still get some rework.
Has he confirmed that Vangelis is returning to do the soundtrack to Blade Runner 2? Because that's all I care about.
I don't know. I do know something about Blade Runner 2 and possible comebacks. And this is this is actually very I wouldn't say frightening to me, but basically what's happening is that Ridley Scott really wants to get Harrison Ford into Blade Runner 2, which will pretty much definitively answer the question of Blade Runner that people have been asking for a very long time, and that is whether or not Deckard is a replicant. Because if we get very, very, very old Harrison Ford, I'm not making fun of Harrison Ford for being old. He's awesome no matter what. But if we get super old Harrison Ford in this movie, there's really no way you can say that he's a replicant unless you say definitively in the movie he is a replicant, but he has
he got old upgrades.
He got old upgrades to make him seem like a human, so he can avoid the law or something. But
no. I think I mean, in the first place, let's be absolutely clear that the replicants are biological organisms. They're not mechanical. So
right.
And so the thing is, the only question is whether or not Sean Young's character in Blade Runner and, spoilers, Harrison Ford's character in Blade Runner have the off switch. Because, the scene in where where Rutger Hauer is hobo with a shotgunning Tyrell, and Tyrell is like, oh no, it's written into all of your DNA. It's written into absolutely every single cell and code. We can't do it. We can't change it.
Right.
But they never answer the question as to whether or not the two of them are special. So just because Harrison Ford shows up if Harrison Ford shows up in Blade Runner 2, that doesn't necessarily mean he's not a replicant. It just means that he might not have that off switch. I mean, that's a very easy retcon plot change. You can write your way around that.
I guess. Yeah, there might be a way around that. It will still look odd because everything about Blade Runner was about how short their time was. I mean, that was the big deal. That was the whole point of the Tears and Rain speech about how brief life is and how, that whole thing. I mean,
improvised dialogue.
Yeah, that was improvised. I understand that it was not even part of the original script, but still, that kind of encapsulates what a lot of the movie is about. And if you have, Harrison Ford there and he's a replicant, but he just lived a long time and and the difference between humans and replicants doesn't make much difference anymore, I feel like that it changes the rules and it changes the game in such a way that it's confusing. Maybe that's just me. But,
I think I understand what you're saying, Leon. Blade Runner is a pure piece of art, and then you add to it, and then it kind of muddies the waters, and you have all these questions about what's canon and what are the rules. It's like BioShock 2 for me.
Okay.
But, you know what I'm saying? BioShock to me felt really great, and then they added stuff to it, and instead of just, it being extra stuff, I think it actively detracted from the other one, because now you have all these things hanging on to it.
Okay.
I don't know. It's the same thing with Fight Club too. They're making a sequel to Fight Club apparently. And
it's a graphic novel.
Yeah, but that's an inevitable film adaptation as well. I mean, someone's going to want to buy the movie rights.
The idea though is that there's literally nowhere to go but down. Even if it's good, it won't be as good. I think that applies to Fight Club and Blade Runner. So there's disappointment coming, guys.
In order for them to succeed, they have to be about different things.
Yeah.
Blade Runner, when you really dig deep into Blade Runner, it's about identity, it's about mortality, it's about what we consider to be human behavior, it's about slavery, it's about a lot of things, but some of these themes really rise to the top. The new one will have to do something else. You can't just retread the same ground. Things have to have changed. You can't just be it is 80 years in the future, and replicants are still kind of screwed, I guess. And maybe a young hotshot Blade Runner has some, like, serious questions about the ethics of his... you like the first movie, go see the second. You know, like, they can't do that. I mean, you can't do that, especially, like, 30 years on.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's different when, you know, you've got a superhero movie that gets a sequel out 2 years later that does pretty much the same thing, because it's kind of, like, fresh in everybody's minds, and you still have, like, the same cultural relativism, and the genre has largely stayed the same. Well, I hate to say this, but science fiction has changed pretty drastically since Blade Runner came out.
Yeah. That actually worries me, though, because science fiction film has become, and I don't really mean this necessarily in a bad way, because I know that a lot of this had to do with the success of the Star Wars trilogy, and I like those movies, but science fiction has become faster, I guess is the way I want to say this. If you watch science fiction in the 70s and early 80s, there's a kind of pacing that is noticeably slower and more...
as well as some Liberacean wardrobe elegance.
There's that too.
I think part of the thing with what you're saying with the pacing of science fiction, I think it was because when you watch, like, you know, Alien, or in this slow pans over the ship and stuff, and like in the first Star Trek movie, or, you know, Space Odyssey, those shots are like, you as the audience are supposed to be impressed by that. Like, that was cool and, like, novel shit at the time. But, like, we've seen so many spaceships. No one cares in 2014. No one's gonna sit still to see your spaceship design.
You know, it's actually interesting. I recently, had to, like someone put a gun to my head. I recently got to rewatch, 2001 A Space Odyssey and Blade Runner. I'm actually going to rewatch Blade Runner again because my wife has never seen it and I keep urging her to see it.
Is this one of the movies that
yes.
You're getting her to... Alright.
It is.
You are using your powers wisely.
But you watch the visual effects in Blade Runner and 2001, and the weird thing is they largely hold up because they used practical effects in such a way and models in such a way that it just, for some reason, models just always look, if you do them right, they will always look right because they seem tangible.
I wonder what it is about using real things that makes them look real, as opposed to representing real things with so very obviously fake things.
Yeah.
You know what? I wish we had the time to talk about it, but I just don't think we can dive into that subject right now, because it sounds like it would take a long time to dissect.
I'm always an advocate of using practical effects when possible, but my point was more not so much that the effects still look good, and a lot of them really do. The thing is that you could just hold on them for a while 30 years ago and be like, how cool is that? Look at it. It's awesome. But nowadays...
people would try to be like, why is it like that? Why do they have this like that? And now we're like, yeah, that'll be your gravity generator, your artificial gravity generator. They made those back in 1978, still running strong. This baby will go until the day that you absolutely die. Now, up on the front of this sucker, you're going to see the sensor array. And this sensor array, let me tell you something, it will detect plot twists from a mile away.
Exactly.
Before we move on to the next thing, do we want to talk about Prometheus 2 at all?
I have not seen the first one, so I don't know how much input I could possibly have.
It's very easy, Austin. It's very easy.
I heard it was terrible.
Pick something to be angry about. It doesn't have to be Prometheus. Just, like, hold that in the back of your mind. And then talk like you know everything, but, like, barely paid attention to the movie. And you'll be on par with, like, most of the internet.
All I know is the trailer where there's that thing rolling towards them, and they run in the one direction where it can possibly squish them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
I actually read an article not too long ago about how the original script for Prometheus did not have the plot holes and did not have a lot of the things that bothered a lot of people. And then one of the writers from Lost got a hold of it and changed like 6 or 7 major things, and that's what we got. If they had just left it alone, the movie would have been considerably better. I always look at Prometheus like I actually do like a lot of parts of Prometheus, but the issue is I'm looking at it like there's a good movie in there somewhere. Just there are kind of layers on, like there's like a layer of cheese on top of it. Like
that was like my first reaction to watching the movie was that was awful, but I felt like it had been made awful in editing.
It had been apparently, I mean that might have been part of it, but apparently it was made awful even before that. I think visually, I mean, it's a strong picture, and I think, Ridley Scott certainly has an eye for that kind of thing. It's just, there's issues. I mean, that could be said of almost anything, but there are a bunch of them.
So it has potential, I guess.
It had potential, and I'm hoping that Prometheus 2 is that rare sequel that's just better than the original. Like maybe Ridley Scott says, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that and that and that." Instead, I will make sure that these screenwriters do this and this and this, and then it won't suck.
Mm-hmm. Well, while we're on the topic of science fiction films, I assume the Prometheus talk was over.
Oh yeah.
We haven't talked about it. It's weird on our nerd podcast. Have we all seen Guardians of the Galaxy?
I have.
No.
Oh.
No? Okay. I don't want to spoil it for you.
You go right ahead. I mean, like,
No, don't. It's actually good.
It's hardly Shakespeare. And I imagine it's the kind of movie that I want to go see because it's fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
More than I want to see it because I believe that the storyline is going to blow me away. I'm almost certain at this point in time, just throwing a guess out there, that there's a MacGuffin involved.
There is.
Well,
it's great.
It's Marvel, so there almost always is. The Guardians of the Galaxy works. I mean, the story is fine, but the movie works because of how well the characters are set up and how well they play off of each other.
It's funny you mentioned the MacGuffin, Johnny, because there's a part where they're talking about it, and he's like, so what's with this Ark of the Covenant Maltese Falcon thing? Like, he's just name-dropping MacGuffins, like, in the conversation. It's fantastic. I heard it was good, but I just saw it recently, and I was surprised by just how good it is. Like, it might be, like, my second or third favorite superhero movie of all time. Like, it's cheesy. It's, like...
It's intentionally cheesy. The humor is... It's actually a very funny film, especially for something where you think, oh, I'm going to see this new superhero science fiction film. It's really, I mean, it is a comedy, but it's an action comedy in the style of the way they actually used to make action comedies back before action had to be gritty.
Yeah, it knows what it is. I think was its strongest strength. You know.
Okay.
It knows when to be funny and when to be actiony.
One of the most surprising things about it for me was that in the lead up to it coming to theaters, so many people that I spoke to about it were like, "Oh my God, I don't know what Marvel's doing. It's gonna flop." Why would they? Why Guardians of the Galaxy? Who's heard of Guardians of the Galaxy? And I'm like, no. This is the best thing that they could possibly do, because if they can turn Guardians of the Galaxy into a movie that makes money, they can do almost anything with any one of their properties.
And it did make big money. It just hit $250 million worldwide so far.
And this is the thing. The funny thing about it is that I would ask these people that are like, "Oh no, it's a total disaster. It's a total disaster." I'm like, "Well, what do you think of the movie?" They're like, "Oh, it looks awesome. I'm totally going to see it." Like everybody I spoke to was like, "Oh, it's going to be a disaster, but I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to give them my money to see it. Oh, it's going to be awesome, but it's a total disaster."
The funny thing is, I feel like a lot of the money that this movie made is in people seeing it again. Because, like, a bunch of people I talk to keep saying, it's time to see Guardians of the Galaxy for the second or third time. Because apparently there's just not a lot of great movies in the theaters right now. So people are just saying, oh, I'll see Guardians of the Galaxy again 3 weeks later. And apparently that's a thing. Because I just went to the movies to see Sin City 2. Because my wife wanted to see it, and I kind of liked the first one. And it was fine, kind of.
Was it just the two of you in the theater? I read the tweet.
It was. I'm not even joking. Here's what happened. We went into the theater. We sat in the middle of the back row, and other people came into the theater. Everything else is completely empty, and they sat right in front of us. We looked at each other, got up, and moved to the middle, and there was nobody else in the theater except me, my wife, and another couple. And that was it. And the movie, I'll say this about the movie, if it had just been about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, Johnny, it would have been great. It would have been kind of stupid and still kind of fetishistic in a kind of a gross way that made me a little uncomfortable. But, it would have been cool because his scenes were just cool, and the rest of the scenes were sort of, the whole movie is like, it's like an anthology film that doesn't follow anthology film rules, and it's not like a disjointed film in the way that Pulp Fiction was a disjointed film that sort of connected everything together. It was just a bunch of shit that happened. And so basically, because of movies like Sin City 2 that nobody wants to see, and whatever the hell is in theaters right now that nobody really wants to see, Guardians of the Galaxy is just still raking in a lot of money.
And that's a business strategy.
Business strategy is everything else sucks. Make our movies so good that people will keep coming to it.
I feel kind of bad saying this, but I'm glad that Sin City 2 isn't that good because I liked the first one and I was having some struggles with myself about whether or not I wanted to support Frank Miller by buying a ticket to the second one.
Oh, Frank Miller.
But now that I know it's no good, I can just push that one off my plate entirely.
There's no demand. You shouldn't feel urged to see it. I'll just say that. And by the way, if you hate Frank Miller, I'm sure basically if you were debating whether or not you should give this movie money, I assume you dislike Frank Miller quite a bit. You will definitely not want to see this movie because Frank Miller makes a cameo, and as soon as I saw him on the screen, I just went, ugh.
Oh, one more thing on this topic before we move on. Johnny, you were saying about how everyone was saying Guardians was going to flop.
Yeah.
I think it would have if it would have come out of nowhere. Like if we didn't have the Marvel Cinematic Universe building up this momentum, right? Where people will watch anything from them right now because they're on such a hot streak. So you start with the big known faces, you do make legitimately good movies, and then you have a shot at popularizing something more obscure, and they did it, and it's great, and it deserves the positive word of mouth. That's no doubt propelling it to all the success, and there'll be more of them, so it's all good. I think I'm on board with what Marvel's doing right now, even though I didn't really like it was Iron Man 3 and a couple other ones that were less than good, but I'm on board still.
It had a really kick-ass trailer, too. I mean, we can't discount how good that trailer was. The trailer was so good that people kept remaking it with other shit, like the Star Wars Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, and I know there was even more than that. So, just in general, it was just a really, really good flick. If there's anyone who is listening to the sound of our voices and hasn't seen this movie yet...
You mean like me?
Yeah, like you. Go see it. Why are you even on this?
Make me!
Why are you even on this podcast right now when you can be watching Guardians of the Galaxy?
I've been busy. You guys know that I've been moving, and I'm in my new apartment now, and I've had to spend a crap ton of money on buying a new place, and
stuff.
So it's fallen to the low end of my to-do list, but it's on my to-do list.
Okay.
So.
Well, make sure to see it in the theaters, because it's one of those movies that's visually very striking and should probably be seen on the big screen.
You saw my TV. I gave you a Skype tour of my phone the other night, so...
That's a damn good TV, but still.
Very nice TV.
I want to say one more thing about Guardians of the Galaxy, then I'll shut up and let Austin tell us about a video game story. I will say one thing. Chris Pratt is ripped as shit. I just started watching Parks and Rec a few weeks ago. I'm already into season 3 now because I'm just sort of binge watching it, I believe is the term that we're using these days, via Netflix. And when apparently the most recent season he's not in all of it because he had movie commitments. But next season, when I assume he will be back, they're going to have to address the fact that he is just buff and all this, because in the first 2 seasons and that I'm watching right now, he's just a big doughy dude, and they're going to have to at some point have him take his shirt off.
I actually saw. I've seen Parks and Rec, but I saw screen caps of an episode I haven't seen where apparently someone asks him why he lost a lot of weight, and he's like, "Oh, I just stopped drinking beer." And he's like, "You used to drink that much beer?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess." So, I think that is, so. If those were real, then that's the canon Parks and Rec explanation.
Okay. All right.
That's funny.
All right, Austin, why don't you tell us about a video game story? I'm sure it's like the most important thing going on in video games right now.
It is important to everyone but you two because you guys are you are gamers, but not my kind. I don't know. I need people.
What do you mean, you people?
Yeah. You know what I mean. Non-Pokemon loving people. Johnny, whatever happened to Gary the War Turtle?
Hey,
you abandoned him.
I had to catch some of them.
Or no, it was Steven the War Turtle, right?
I think it was Steven the War Turtle.
Who was Gary?
Gary might have been my Rattata.
Rattata.
It might have been my Rattata.
Alright, so about a year ago, there was a Pokemon event, I think for X and Y, and there was a weird image shown on a screen in the background, and no one explained what it was. It was like a Blaziken, like, standing, and it was a kind of 3D graphics. It was weird. And also there was a trademark file.
Was it a Mega Slowbro?
No, I'll talk about that if you want. But there was a trademark file for something called Pokken, and nobody knew for a whole year what that meant, what that screen was, what that trademark meant. But Nintendo finally confirmed it, I think yesterday. It's Pokemon and Tekken. It's a contraction of those words. It's a 3D fighting game by the Soul Calibur team, it looks like. They only...
Naturally. You're gonna team those two up.
Well, I mean, the last Soul Calibur didn't do so well, so maybe they're gonna put that, series on a little hiatus. I think they're doing a free-to-play version, actually. But you might as well have them work on something, and Pokemon is a franchise with so much going on that you can make it into basically any genre.
I got a question here. Didn't Tekken have a crossover with
Street Fighter?
Street Fighter?
There were supposed to be two, but yeah.
So does that mean that Street Fighter and Pokemon share a universe?
Who knows, right? You want to know if it's canon? Is that what you're asking?
I want to know if it's canon.
Like, who would win the fight, Blanca or Pikachu? Whose electricity would come out on top?
I don't know, but that's something that I'd love to see somebody on YouTube animate.
It's funny, though, because we ask these questions, and I think that the people who make these games care so little about it. Like, someone asked the Legend of Zelda guy, I can't pronounce his name, they asked him, like, what was the canonicity of Hyrule Warriors, and apparently he was just like, oh my god, no one... Stop asking me. It doesn't matter. They're just games. Play them. Shut up. It was pretty great. But the thing about Pokken specifically is it looks like all of the characters, at least the three we know so far, Blaziken, Machamp, and Lucario, are all fighting type, which may limit the roster if we're only doing one of the, 15 types. So we're going to end up with, a bunch of dudes that look the same, which is really weird because Pokemon is notable for its huge variety of monsters.
What's the flower one?
There's quite
the plant. There's a plant, a half plant. It puts things to sleep.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of plants. There's an entire grass type. Are you talking about maybe Vileplume? That's a big plant guy. No? That sleep powder is an attack that many of them can learn. Gloom, Bellsprout.
Keep talking, Yorsky. No, I just mean,
Johnny,
that would be like, I mean, obviously they're going to have to limit it, because, I mean, could you imagine, seeing because normally it's you get one roster on the left and then one roster on the right. Could you imagine, looking at the Tekken roster on the left?
Well, it's not a crossover game, it's just Pokemon in the style of Tekken.
Oh, okay, alright, I'm sorry. I totally misunderstood I read that headline, and I was like, what the fuck?
You thought they were gonna have,
I thought it was
Hihachi just punching Jigglypuff in the face?
I honestly thought that's what they were gonna do.
That would be sweet. You could just beat the shit out of Pokemon with the fucking martial artists from Tekken.
I was really, really weirded out, but now that you're actually telling me what it's about, I feel like the world is a less bright place.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I kill your hype? Were you so hyped about this, and now you just can't bring yourself to care anymore? Pokemaniac, you.
I'm excited for Pokemon fans.
Are you excited for the fact that there's a Pokemon that is a Luchador Hawk? His name's Hawlucha. He might be in it. That's what I want.
Yeah, okay, I'm excited about that.
Poor Leon's he's like, I don't Pokemon. Alright, I know, I'm sorry, I won't belabor this Pokemon story. You guys don't like Pokemon. Just last thing, when they announced this game...
I never said I didn't like Pokemon. I just said it didn't really grab me. I beat
know.
my first trainer, and I was like, yay!
They announced this game, right? It's supposed to be a huge game. I mean, Pokemon's, world famous, super popular. The Wii U is super struggling right now. Do you know what system they announced it for?
The Wii?
None. No systems. It's coming to arcade machines in Japan.
Seriously?
That's it as of now. Obviously, someday it could get a port to Wii U. It could come to America. But right now, it's Japanese arcade exclusives, which is kind of strange when you have a struggling home console out.
That's an unusual move. Like, I mean, that bespeaks a certain attitude, possibly, on Nintendo. That's kind of troubling. I don't know what else to say about that. Austin, I take it your stunned silence is...
No, Austin's gone.
I know. I was just filling radio dead air, man.
That's another show.
I know it is.
Yeah.
That's what you call cross-promotion.
Oh, yeah.
Which is weird because I've actually never listened to Radio Dead Air.
I actually do from time to time. I go into the secret chat. Yeah, where all the big shots talk. It's hidden.
That sounds exciting.
It's not, but it's nice to talk to other peoples in the industries.
Networking.
Yeah, that's what it is. Gosh, Austin's gone, and it's just everything is wrong. Everything is wrong with the universe.
I'm sorry, that topic just suddenly ended, and I was like, I don't know what to say about Pokemon. I do have a war turtle named Steven.
Oh.
It's going to be really terrible if I ever go back to that Pokemon game. I'm not gonna know like which any of them are. It's going to be like, which Pokemon do you want to use? And I'm like, I don't know, Doris, Gary, Fred? Like, I'm gonna have no idea who's who.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm just going to start talking about the other thing we're going to talk about, and Austin can just play catch up.
I like it. Let's do it.
So we were talking a few weeks back about True Detective and how we can't talk about the other thing about True Detective, which is the finale.
Because Leon had not yet seen the finale.
Yeah.
For those of you who are new to the podcast and haven't turned it off yet. All one of you.
Yeah. Basically, here's what I think about the finale. I like that what he sees at the end, which is sort of like this cosmic thing, can be explained away as one of his drug flashbacks, or we could see it, the other way we could see it. The problem I had with the finale is that I liked that. Goddamn, people beeping right outside my window. I like that the series up to that point was very much about our sort of like small place in the universe, and how it took a sort of a nihilistic bent to things, and I kind of liked that. I liked that it was sort of unabashedly saying, we're not important. What we think is real may not be real. Our morality system is something we invented. There is no real sense of justice in the world. We just sort of have to impose it upon ourselves, and things like that. And it's dark, but it's also sort of has this kind of realistic bent to it that I sort of appreciate. The problem.
I like it that you're using realistic instead of materialistic.
Okay, all right. Well, I actually am, because I'm doing research for a 4-part video series on Inception. I have to research realism versus anti-realism as it pertains to how we perceive the universe. But anyway, I like that was part of True Detective. And then at the end, Matthew McConaughey's character, Rustin Cole, sort of does like a complete 180 and says, I went to the other side for a second and I felt so warm and I touched my daughter and everything was good, and look up at the sky. The stars are there, and that means that the light is starting to win against the darkness. And I'm like, no, I liked you better when you were sad. And I liked that you had a sort of philosophical stance that was unconventional to the rest of the town, and that's what you believed, but that didn't make you a villain. It just made you a guy who sometimes does good things and occasionally does bad things, but has a sense of guilt about certain things.
But you didn't see a similar transformation in Woody Harrelson's character.
I don't know. It's just
because it was. I feel like it was obviously less pronounced.
Yeah, they did the I wouldn't say a complete character flip, but Woody Harrelson's character, he looks up at the sky and he says, but there's like a whole lot more black than there is light, and then but it ends on McConaughey saying, but the light is winning. And I felt like that was what we're supposed to take away from it, that last line, more than... Go ahead.
Well, yeah, when we talked about True Detective 4, we talked about some of the inspirations, it's based, not based, but it takes, it homages, like The King in Yellow, and there's also some, books on philosophy. Actually, he's been even accused of plagiarizing them.
Okay.
Like, some of the things he says are specifically. But I actually read an article, that ending conversation about the stars and the light winning and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's from an Alan Moore comic. That's I haven't read it, but my understanding is it's more or less directly from a thing that already exists.
Okay.
So I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but I think it was
possibly worse.
Like I said, I haven't read it. This was an article I was reading about the inspirations of the show, so I'd have to find that for you, Johnny. But I think that it fits into the way that the True Detective worked, which was by taking all these kind of philosophies and fictions and stuff and kind of trying to make a new thing out of it, It's all very pastiche.
I get it, but here's the thing. When a film or a television show, in this case it just felt like a long film or a novel almost, when you sort of end on a specific thought or a specific ideology or a specific message, I felt like they're telling us that's the point of, and everything else was just building to that point. And when it sort of ends on this note that's basically, he says that everything is just light versus dark, and I'm like, no, it's not. Oh my God, that was why the show was good, because it wasn't that. And
spoilers.
Yeah, I know. We are definitely well into spoilers at this point. I'd say let's talk about the finale, so people should know. But
I have found the article for you, Johnny. It says issue 8 of Alan Moore's top 10.
Okay, I haven't read that one.
No, me neither.
But anyway, It's just I would have appreciated it if they had stuck to their. Let me rephrase that. If they had stuck to their convictions, unless that wasn't their conviction, and in which case they really did just want to build to that character flip where Cole sort of changes his outlook on the universe. I didn't want him to. That's the thing. I wanted him to grow, but I didn't want him to do a 180 completely. I just wanted him to be able to sort of accept his very minuscule role in the universe, but still find that he can give his own life meaning, and that even if life is meaningless, we can just sort of impose goals on ourselves and give it that. But he became very spiritual in that last 15 minutes of the show, and I didn't like that. I'm not saying that ruined the show for me. It's still a great show, but a little while ago, I was thinking, True Detective is, right before I saw the finale, I said, True Detective is the show I've been waiting for a long time. And then the very end happened, and I was like, True Detective is almost the show I've been waiting for a long time. And I don't know. I wouldn't say it wasn't a bad episode either. It just rubbed me the wrong way because it wasn't what I was hoping it would be.
It's funny you say that because, I mean, I agree with you. I think in what you're saying that the last episode is the weakest, but still pretty good.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of all the things that would have rubbed you the wrong way is that the way I guess we're spoilers territory. The clue that leads them to the killer, you know, the villain, I guess, of the show. It's not anyway. Is that it's kind of a weak link? It's like, oh, green paint. Where have I seen green before? That's a color. Oh, wait, I have a picture here. I don't know.
I think to me, because it was Harrelson's character who discovers that, I think that was a way of saying that the super genius that he thinks he is still going to miss some things, and that this, you know, detective with a lot of experience still brings something to the table. That I liked that part, but yeah, that was odd.
It was weak for me.
Tenuous is the word.
So that would have been my gripe more so than the ending speech, which I thought, yeah, I see where you're coming from, that it does kind of undermine the cosmic, like, insignificance of the things that they were talking about before, but it was well acted.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Are you guys hurt that he didn't win? Apparently, didn't Breaking Bad.
Award shows are bullshit. I don't care if I mean, when we were talking about Gladiator before, people sort of rag on it because it shouldn't have won Best Picture. I don't care what people decide is Best Picture. The awards, and I'm not trying to be cynical when I say this. I don't. It's just that it's sort of, you have to understand that a lot of the reasons that people win certain things are not like calculated as in terms of best as they are. There's things like popularity. There's things like campaigns. There's things like money. I'm not saying bribes. I don't mean that. I mean like people putting money into campaigning for certain things. That there's like full page ads in Variety for certain things just to campaign this movie to be nominated for this, that, or the other, you know.
So what you're saying, Leon, is Forrest Gump will always be the winner in your heart?
I'm saying that sometime when people say, damn, that should have won Best Picture, that movie, instead of that, because that movie sucked, and this person wasn't as good as this, it was like, it doesn't matter as much as you think it does, because there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that decides this, that is not like this wise council of elders, you know, like quietly and like ponderously determining what is truly like objectively best. So no, I am not upset that Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey were, I hate to say the word snubbed, but that's the word people say, snubbed for an Emmy, and Bryan Cranston got it. He's a fine actor. He, you know, good for him.
Johnny?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. I
just missed hearing your voice. I'm sorry.
I got nothing to say about the Emmys, except for the fact that I think obviously from the Best Actor in a Comedy, it's apparent that the people who watch or vote for the Emmys don't watch any other comedies than Big Bang Theory. But as far as the ending, the finale of True Detective, one of the things that I think I appreciated that was undersold, and I think worked to the show's favor, was that vision, that revelation that McConaughey got. Because it's like, I mean, we don't know whether or not he just assumed that he was having a drug freak out, but it's kind of allowed, the audience is allowed the pleasure, the privilege of being able to theorize that it might be more than that. And so, like, the character transformation that happens afterwards is almost entirely dependent on the experiences that his character goes through during those moments. But kind of as like neutral observers, we can kind of go, oh, I don't think so. No, I don't think so at all.
Yeah, I like a bit of ambiguity in my fiction.
Yeah, and I like, I mean, I can understand that, like, that transformation happening to the character, and I also do understand as well that it didn't really fit tonally with the rest of the series, because as much as they played up Matthew McConaughey's, like, oddball nature during the whole series, they really hammered home his transformation in the last episode. Whereas, you know, Woody Harrelson's character during the whole series is a little bit more, his transformations, his changes are more subtle, they're more nuanced. To where it's like, you know, he's an upright gentleman who protects the law when it suits his interest. You know, like, he's a good man, but only when it suits him. And it's only when he loses absolutely everything does he finally find solace in being a good man. Not to get these things back, because they are kind of beyond his grasp at this point in time. But, you know, and then that last episode where he kind of gets exposed to this, like, this real darkness. It does kind of stir something in him, but because they hadn't had this, like, one-note character for the whole series, they couldn't give him that, you know, 15-minute soliloquy.
It's a shame that they couldn't have characterized any of the women in the show as well as they did the two male leads, because that was one of the weaknesses. I was trying to recommend it to someone, and they were like, oh, well, you know, how is it? And I was like, honestly, it's a little macho and pretentious. Like, I really like it, but the person I was talking to, I was like, I don't think you will like it, because it's basically just, like, dudes doing dude work. Like, just being dudes.
I didn't find it particularly, macho. I don't know if sadness and machismo are things that are linked. It seemed I don't know, maybe for me
it depends on whether or not you subscribe to Freudian or Jungian psychology.
Oh my god.
Obviously, I'm not saying they were 100% always the ideal of masculinity. I'm just saying it involves men, you know, violence and, you know, sexuality where the women are mostly objects, just stuff like that.
But no, True Detective, good show. I wish that it basically felt like it was going down similar roads thematically as No Country for Old Men, which, was very much, it was sort of about, like, inevitability and sort of having this sort of, there's a sort of illusion of justice that, movies sort of present to us. Like, movies give us this idea that karma totally exists because the bad guy just gets destroyed at the end, and that's just how life works. But it doesn't, and I don't mean that in a sad, somber way, but people get away with stuff, and No Country for Old Men sort of famously killed the lead character off screen, and people flip their shit, but that was intentional. That was sort of like the point. And the other lead character ends the movie talking about a dream he had, and then it just sort of abruptly cuts.
I love No Country for Old Men so much. That's a fucking fantastic movie.
I like it more. I liked it when I first saw it when I was younger. I like it a lot more now that I get it a little bit more, and that I've sort of forced myself to be more analytical about films because of my show. It's a very dense film, and I was kind of hoping that True Detective would go down a similar path, and it was for a while until it reached the end of that path, and then there was there was Starlight, I guess, and I don't know. I hate to crap on something because it ended on a very positive note, but it felt tonally different and changed what the show really felt like it was going to be about. In not even that last episode, but the last 15, 20 minutes of that episode. So,
yeah, it was pretty dissonant.
Oh, I actually really do have to go. I'm about to watch a movie with my wife called Grand Piano. It stars Elijah Wood and John Cusack. Apparently, Elijah Wood must play the piano really, really well in a concert, or else John Cusack will kill him. And I have to see this. It's like Speed if it were a piano movie.
I'm not sure if that's amazing or horrible. You'll have to let me know.
It's like all I'm going to talk about next week.
Fantastic.
All right, bye.
All right.
Bye.
Good night.